Today I'll be making Natsuki in cold porcelain.
I'm going to be making the Doki Doki Literature Club characters with different types of clay. I'm going to be using air dry clay, that's paper clay, and air dry clay that is modeling clay, homemade cold porcelain, and good old polymer clay. And I will be coloring all of these different ways. We're coloring them with watercolor, oil paint, acrylic paint, and chalk. And oh yes, and also makeup. And I'm doing this as an experiment, sort of. I want to see how they turn out, because I'm used to, this was like one of the first clays I used. I also used type of cold porcelain before, but these two are the ones I used to use all the time, and now I think I may have just as much or possibly more experience using polymer clay than these other two. But this air dry clay is new to me, and the cold porcelain I used before is like professionally made, and this is homemade. I made this myself through a tutorial video. And so I'm going to make each of the characters with a different type of clay. I'm going to be making Madoka with paper clay with this pose. Gonna make Natsuki with this pose. They're all gonna be chibi. But with cold porcelain, I'm gonna make Sayori with polymer clay and with this pose, and I'm gonna make Yuri the mud-based clay. So that's the only one I'll be coloring with paint. So for the most part, I'm experimenting with these two. I'm going to get started with the air dry clays, especially the cold porcelain and the paper clay first, because those are going to end up being the ones that dry the slowest. So I want to go ahead and do those first, and as those are air drying off to the side, I'll make the other two, which one has to be baked and the other one you have the option of baking it, and I probably will. But yeah, this is more of an experiment more than a tutorial, because I'm testing out certain coloring methods, because I have so many different colors of polymer clay. I usually don't feel the need to color it with these methods. I think I'll start with Natsuki. Okay, so I'm going to start with Natsuki. I added acrylic paint for her skin tone. Now see how it works with the mold. You see the texture of this stuff? Use that in the mold as is. It doesn't turn out as well. See? But you can use baby oil so it won't stick.
Yourself a cool door knocker. I can stay in this place for hours and hours. I like books with pictures of lots of pretty flowers. Being crushed by a giant pterodactyl. Jules Verne, H.G. Wells, and Ray Bradbury. You can take them home so you don't have to read them in a hurry. Having fun isn't hard.
I used watercolor to color the vest that they wear under their jackets.
There's a giving tree and
I have a bowl of water to help the clay stick together and blend.
should not keep your brother in a jar. Let me out! All the thoughts and dreams of people throughout history. And
I use chalk for the skirt pigment.
To borrow 'em for free. Yeah! Having fun isn't hard when you've got a library card. Having fun isn't hard when you've got a library card.
I've heard when using cold porcelain, not supposed to put aluminum foil or thick wires underneath it because it shrinks as it dries.
Who's Dewey?
So I only use thin little wires.
Who's Dewey? 1, 2, 3. Having fun isn't hard when you've got a library card.
The hair, I mixed a little bit of everything just to see if the pigments would mess with each other or not. I used oil paint for the bow. After everything dried, I found that without any pigments, it actually dries a little translucent if you just leave it white without using even white paint in it. And the only thing that didn't really seem to change color that much was the acrylic paint and the oil paint, but other than that, pretty much everything else dried darker. The blush I put on Natsuki's cheeks also pretty much went away entirely. I noticed after the entire figure dried, there was a little bit of warping here and there, the most noticeably being the stand. It's been a long time since I used cold porcelain, and back when I did use it years ago, I used it very differently. Like, I would shape it on plastic dolls, and I would paint it after it dried. So this is my first time actually using pigment to color the cold porcelain, but I never actually used this type of clay to make a figure in itself before.
I used oil paint for the stand.
I added little details on the stand to make it look like a manga, because that's Natsuki's choice of literature. When I set the stand aside to dry, everything was fine at first, but then the white part detached from the orange part and they started to warp a little. And so even after trying to fix it with glue, there's still noticeable gaps between them. For those of you out there who are just now for the first time seeing me make figures in this video, trust me, my other figures usually turn out a lot better than this. It's just that I'm not used to using cold porcelain this way, and it's been years since I used it last too.
The next Doki Doki Literature Club member I'll make is Monica, so make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on it. See you next time.